It gaff till it gaff. It gaff till it gaff. I'm illy with the till it gaff. Illy with the till it gaff. Knit gaff, knit gaff. Knit gaff, knit gaff.
Alright then. Hoping it's going to be my new intro. Yeah, so this is Freethinking. This is the Grande Gorda Papa lifestyle channel, the GGPLS channel. This is the channel for, no idea, because I don't have the list for me, like I said, I'm moving house, and this is another one of the drink champs episodes. More like drink cheap wine episodes. So as I said, it's late at night. It's now like 1 o'clock in the morning. I had a couple of Tintos, nothing major, like literally 2 glasses. Not like I'm a lightweight. I just normally work very clear-headed, so I'm a bit more relaxed. I thought I'd just try this out because I had loads of ideas for podcasts when I woke up first thing this morning. So I thought, okay, let me just try a couple of these, and luckily I'm here on my own, so I've got a bit of time. What I want to talk about today, well, actually this is a big one, so I hope I don't fuck it up. The idea I was thinking of this morning is really something I'm going to call the love deficit. I just like the sound of the bell. I ain't even trying to do this in 7 minutes anymore. But either way, let's hear the sound of the bell. Let's see what we can do. Okay, so I call this the love deficit. What am I talking about? Basically, it's really to do with this one thing. I'll pause this. Okay, so I'm doing this with some pauses. Last time I did one of these with pauses, it completely corrupted the file, so I hope that isn't the case today. Basically, I was just thinking about, as I overanalyze everything this morning, the reason I was doing something, I'm not going to go into why it was, but I don't remember what the hell it was. But the realization I had when I really dug down into it, the root cause of what I was doing wasn't for the money or for the accolade or to make other people feel better. It was actually because I wanted to be loved. It was because I wanted to feel love. Hence the title, The Love Deficit. So I was thinking to myself, I know it's been covered by a lot of other people, but so was everything else. So I'm just going to put my spin on it. I thought to myself, that's so true. Like, I know that I'm that kid, like I got that problem. I'm that love junkie, again, here we go. Backstory, mummy issues, daddy issues, my issues got issues, you know what I mean? So it's like, all right then, I get it. I do a lot of stuff because I want to have that, that connection, that feel that love, yeah. But I thought, the thing is, if we really get to that whole concept of what they call ends values, not means values, and this is another Anthony Robbins concept, but again, I know that, like most of his concepts, you'll find it elsewhere. If you really ask people why they want what they want, and you get to ask the question enough, going through all the means to an end, the better word for that, I can't bother to think of it right now. Go through the means to an end, reasons, why do you want that job? Oh, because I want a big car. Why do you want a big car? Oh, because I want to drive around. No, why do you want it? You end up with what they call ends values. The ends are always pretty much the feelings that these things are going to give you, right? That's a very straight out Anthony Robbins, either personal power tool or get the edge, right? But you get this in business as well. We understand in business when we have to ask a person, why they want something, we really need to know the end reason. If they want a big house, I want a big house with big, high security gates and cameras and da-da-da-da-da. Why do you want that? Well, because it makes you feel important, and because why do you want to know? Because whatever, actually they want to feel more safe, or maybe it's prestige. And if you want prestige and that isn't what you need, this gives you more prestige. So, we understand that in business as well. What I'm getting to is that, you really want to get to the end value. And I thought to myself, well, again, following from another Anthony Robbins concept, the reality is most people do most of what they do in an attention to get love. Like the vast majority of what people do, one way or another, actually, if you was to ask that ends value question, ends up with, really, it's just me trying to get love. It's a little bit like this game that I was taught when I was very young, where you just ask why. So whatever the person says, you just say why. No matter what they say, why? And it's the kind of thing kids do to send parents insane because you run out of reasons. Basically, the ends values. If you keep on asking that ends value question, I'm pretty sure that high percentage, probably well into the 90s, of what most people do really comes down to the fact that they want to be loved. Well, why would that be? Getting straight out the Anthony Robbins playbook, because we are love monsters. Why are we love monsters? Well, because when we're born, we are one of the few mammals on the planet whose ability to be loved is in direct correlation with our survival. Our ability to be loved is in direct correlation with our survival. The more we're loved by our parents and our surrounding neighborhood families, is the more likely we are to survive. And without a doubt, the more we're loved by our families, etc., our communities, is the more likely we are to thrive. So not just not die, but also become the best versions of ourselves. And this is all happening at a very young age. So as young people, we're picking this up at a very young age that, hey, if if I cry and no one comes, I could die. But if I'm loved and I cry, people run to me because I'm loved. I've even seen kids do this. Like, kids were old enough to know, just go, ah! Just to see how fast their parents run. I mean, like literally on some Eddie Murphy shit, like, let me see how fast can Eddie Murphy's run. And you would drop your shit and run from one end of the house to the other end of the house to see what's up with your kid. And there's nothing up with your kid. And you're like, what the fuck? But what it is your kid is just testing you, because your kid needs to know that they're loved. They need to know that if there was something wrong, you would haul ass down to where they are and try and save them. Yeah, so I just got interrupted. So if anyone's listening out there and you really care that much, and if I could find people who care that much, I'd be so flattered to notice that that the stopwatch is not running to exactly 7 minutes, because I paused this for 10 minutes while I had a conversation. But like I was saying, yeah, so if you really get down to the ends values, it's because people want to be loved. And we want to be loved because we know that this is in direct correlation to our survival. It's so deep rooted into us. Every mammal, every animal or insect, I'm pretty sure, has it, deep rooted in their what we call a prehistoric reptile brain, the fight or flight brain, the brain that doesn't have to think and process, that just knows, that this is how I survive. I survive based on getting love from my parents and other adults, because as a human mammal, human baby, I can't survive if no one takes care of me. That's the point I'm getting to, that, human babies can't survive if no one takes care of them. Not as a baby, you get these Tarzan stories and shit. Even he was taken care of by, apes, because, you would just starve, right? You can't go hunting for your own food as an 18-month or as a 6-month-old. You know what I mean? So we understand, deep rooted in our subconscious, that human beings are survival machines. I always think this every time I see, like, what's it called again? Like, because it's, again, the name in Spanish is different. My life as a 500 kilo man, or whatever, a 300 kilo man. I'm like, how do you put that much weight on and stay alive? But human beings are survival machines. Your body will just adapt and adapt and adapt and adapt and adapt and adapt, because it doesn't want to fucking die. You know what I mean? So if you can't get your brain into a place where it stops mistreating your body will just adapt. Cut this off, produce more of that, reduce more of this, change that, and just keep on fucking adapting to keep you alive, because it doesn't want to die. And that's what, we do as children. So moving on, that's, I think, the real root cause of the love deficit, is that at a very, very young age, we absolutely need love to survive. We know that we need love to survive, and if we're not loved, we won't survive. And, there's lots of conversations about the chemicals that are produced. That's why, you smile when you see a baby and you feel a certain way, etc., etc. And, that's the whole postpartum thing, postnatal depression, that, women who struggle with that, or maybe don't have as much of that chemical produced, don't feel that connection, that love to their babies, and it makes them feel bad. And it is very, very dangerous, because if they don't have that connection to their babies, then, they might not have the moral or ethical reasoning in their mind. And this, the reason why, men and women parents look after babies and some other people is because of this compunction, this chemical that's produced that compels us to look after them. If it was just left down to our logic, it probably wouldn't happen. And that's probably why we have this chemical produced. So then you get to like the postpartum, if you haven't got that, you don't feel that you want to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and feed this crying, whimpering, screaming thing that's messing up your shit. And then your babies are not going to survive. And then, that's bad for the human race. So we absolutely need this. And I think as human babies, we're well aware. And this want to be loved, it's good. It controls our actions as we grow up, for good or bad, depending on a lot of circumstances. I think sometimes depending on what you genuinely are as a human being as well as your circumstances. I'm not 100% nurture type of guy. I think there's a lot of human nature. Some people just have different natures. I can't call it. I don't understand it. But I don't believe that everything that people do is about nurture. But what I definitely find is, your need to be loved passes on from that I need to survive into all of your actions. So whether you're somebody who does good or bad things, a lot of that all comes down yet again to your need to be loved and trying to fulfill that need. So, as I said, a good example, if you're, let's just say type A, rather than trying to try and find words, right? But I guess you'll be like a kind of more empathic kind of person. You might try and fulfill your need to be loved by being nice to people, by helping people, by being thoughtful for the people. This is the kind of category that I think I fall into, right? And obviously, we all think that we're fucking wonderful people, and that's the way we should all be. Not necessarily the case. There's a lot of failings in that approach to the world, especially if you take that approach to everything you do. It's not applicable for every situation. But the reason you get stuck in that vein is because that's the way you've learned to receive love. So because you received love by being thoughtful and friendly and helpful and compassionate, then you're now in a groove where, that's how I receive love. And receiving love is the most important thing for me to do, because right at the beginning of my life, it ensured my survival. So I've got to make sure that I stick to what I know, and I'm going to keep on doing this, even when it's no longer appropriate. And that's why people who, choose that vehicle to receive love end up in situations where they are exactly what the abuser, the sociopath, or the narcissist is looking for. It's like they rubbing their hands. You're just what I'm looking for. A people pleaser. Somebody who's insecure, always looking for ways to please other people, always looking for justifications for other people's fuckeries, because that's the way they've received love. And that's perfect for me, because I need someone who finds justifications for all the evil shit I'm about to do to you. We're a match made in heaven. So, that vehicle isn't always appropriate. And it goes the other way around. Some people, for their circumstance and again with their nature, have received love by bullying other people. Let's say, for example, a type B, and a more aggressive, more assertive type of person. And they found a way to, use that aggressiveness and that assertiveness to get other people to capitulate and show them love. And because it works, then they'll keep on doing it. So at the end of the day, man, what we're really finding is most of people's actions are really based around this deficit of love. I think if someone had no love deficit, their whole approach to the world would be different. And I truly believe, there's surely loads of people from different religious backgrounds, particularly I think Eastern religions, who will be screaming at me, that's what we've been saying for. Do you know what I mean? I think maybe many Hindus or Buddhists will be saying, that's the whole point, that you fill yourself up with love and you don't have this love deficit, and then your whole approach to all situations in the world are very different. I respect that. I don't always think that, subscribing to those religious thoughts or lifestyles are the only solution. You may not want to adopt that lifestyle because I think a lot of that tends to come with a whole holistic lifestyle, which may not suit you. But most definitely, you really probably do need to find a way of fulfilling your own love deficit, finding a way to not feel that deficit of love, so you don't have to fall into these patterns of behavior, which are really based on the way you used to get love before when you were younger and you needed it for survival or for thrival. Now we need to get to a point where we find our own way of creating that love feeling in ourselves and using that to thrive. We really have to get to that point where we don't need it from outside. And that's fucking obvious and said by every self-improvement person there ever is. Yet we still often find ourselves in exactly that position, looking for that feeling of love and validation and acceptance from outside of ourselves. And again, like, one of the things, like, I've been listening to some, again, back to that whole PUA stuff I was talking about. I got to give a shout out to Alpha Male Strategies, because his shit is just awesome. Again, on being a man. Now, it wouldn't suit everybody because, because he don't play, you know what I mean? And his focus is sexual. So it's one of those scenarios where you have to listen to this and put your own focus on what you're being told. And if you put your own focus on what you're being told, the actual information is awesome. Do you know what I mean? I appreciate it would probably be quite offensive to some. Some would find it quite misogynistic, but I take it in a whole different light. And I see it as, just a lot of preparation for manhood on how to be a man. And part of it, like I said, is like, or he says, being on your purpose. And part of it is an arrogance. The point I was going to get to is that it comes with an arrogance. It comes with I don't give a fuck. My good friend Drea, who's most definitely going to be up in these podcasts, unless she chooses not to be. I remember she was a bit concerned with me for a while because I came off the back of this horrible narcissistic attack, and I had this new fuck you attitude. And I said to her, I love the new fuck you, Felix. And she was like, yeah, I can see where you're going with that. And I can see why you need to do that for a while. But, don't get too caught up in fuck you, And I sometimes feel that sometimes, we get a bit lost in words as well. Because like I said, I come from a hip hop background. So violent confrontational language is quite normal. But I wasn't really getting it that twisted. I was really like, yo, fuck you. And what I meant was that, whereas before I would capitulate and go, okay then, okay, yeah, I suppose, or, yeah. I was like, nah, fuck you. I'm not comfortable with that. I'm setting a boundary here. I don't want to do that, so I'm not doing it. You know what I mean? And it was, so I guess, a more grammatically correct and less offensive term could be possibly the new non-capitulation, Felix. But I like the new fuck you, Felix, because that's how I felt. I was like, nah, fuck you, ain't doing it. Do you know what I mean? And I like, as I'm a fan of swearing. I think it's a wonderful part of any language when used appropriately. And that's how I felt. I didn't feel like I'm not capitulating. I was like, nah, fuck you. Like, shit, straight up, fuck you. Move from me. I ain't doing that. You know what I mean? And it was a wonderfully liberating feeling to, although it was off the back of, being reasonably unhappy, it was a wonderful feeling. Get to that point where I now really felt that I didn't have to please people. And one of my oldest friends, Justin, told me this years ago, like when I was 12, like, dude, you're a people pleaser. You got to stop trying to please people all the time. He used to tell me this all the time when he was walking home from school, like going to the farm or whatever, he was walking to his house, you know what I mean? And he said this to me, that, yo, bro, you got to stop this people pleasing shit. You know what I mean? From the age of 12, but that's the way that was the way that I had learned to receive love, to fill my love deficit. As I started to get older, my parents weren't just giving me that natural love because that endorphin, whatever chemical it is, it started to wear off. And now I was just something they had to fucking look after rather than this cute little baby that, their body chemically told them they had to love and adore and took care of them because of that. I was starting to try and fill that need elsewhere. So as I said, you do it, whether you do it in an aggressive stroke bad way or in a, non-aggressive stroke a good way, I think they're both bullshit. The reality is you have to find a way of filling that deficit from within rather than trying to fill it from outside. But yet, it's probably the hardest thing to do. It's so easy to say, but it really probably is the hardest thing to do. Okay, so just to move on real quickly, the last thing I was going to say is, this love deficit, one of the places you find it so often is in performers. Easiest thing in the world to see. Probably easily 70 to 80% of musicians, actors, artists are all trying to fill a love deficit. You know what I mean? It's just so clear. And again, you find it becoming a problem when that love deficit isn't being filled by their art. Because what happens is, as they get weaned off of the I'm your parent, I love you just because my body chemically tells me I have to, then they start doing shit that impresses people. They make people laugh, Robbie Williams, or they make people feel great by singing Michael Jackson. And it's like, wow, this little kid, man, he sang and I felt this way, and and all of a sudden they're getting all this love and adoration from their family and their friends and then from the greater public. And, they're all just trying to fill this love deficit. But you start looking into the lives of performers, actors, particularly comedians, and singers, you find a lot of broken homes, hurt, distress, pain, agony, shame, and they're all trying to get over this loss of love, where there should have been love and comfort and support at home. There was only pain and hurt and mistrust or abuse. So they had to go and get that love from elsewhere. And they found something that they were good at, and they did it, and people loved them, and they just went, bam, this is it. This is how I get my love. I'm on this. And, they work it until they become the best at it or good enough at it to make a living from it. And like I said in the last podcast, that's why it becomes so dangerous when your likes turn to dislikes, because now, the public is so fickle. Back in the day, your diehard fans would just roll with you, whether all of a sudden someone said you did something bad or not. I don't want to get too deep into calling names and stuff like that, but I can think of, even somebody in the last 10 years who was, almost convicted of doing some bad shit, and diehard fans were like, I ain't trying to hear that. There's very few people like that. The last time I think I saw a diehard fan go that fucking crazy was I saw a video of a guy spazzing over apparently Kerry Hilson dissing Beyonce. I think it was Kerry Hilson. I ain't trying to cause no beef. But it was one of those, why so-and-so's career died. And this person apparently dissed Beyonce. And this guy went mad and trashed the computer, threw the computer across the room. Like, you dissing Beyonce? And threw his laptop across the room and shit. Do you know what I mean? It's like, they ain't that many diehard fans anymore. People, they're fickle as fuck, man. They move on to the next thing when you ain't hot anymore. Or the first time you fall out of favor, you're toast. So if your love deficit is being filled by your ability as a performer, you're on real fucking shaky ground. That's why I said before that you really have to prepare for that, because when that blows differently, when that changes, you're in the shit. So here's the thing, man. I'm going to get to the point because I think I'm going around in circles. At the end of the day, man, there is only really one way to stop the love deficit, and it's to teach parenting. Because like I said, in most of the people in the performing arts, you see that there is this huge love deficit where when that chemical reaction, that chemical need impulse from the parents to love their children starts to wear off, the parents don't fill it with anything. That's the real point here. The parents don't fill it with anything. No, I know some people I can think of, Dre particularly, who always tells me how loving and supporting their family was. And I love to hear that story because in my experience, it's such a fucking rarity. Do you know what I mean? That, it's one of those, thank God, I love to hear some good news, and most families, I tend to find that when that chemical reaction wears off, they don't feel that with anything. So they don't support and love their children. And the children notice the loss of that love. Yeah, you're still getting fed. And yeah, you're still getting clothed. But you're not being loved in the same way. You're not being supported in the same way. You're not being encouraged in the same way. So the truth of the matter is, how do you solve the love deficit, man? You just got to start teaching parents about parenting. You really have to. So, if I'm really going to take it there, this is where it starts to get very dangerous. Because if you really, and I'm an extremist, take what I just said to its extreme, you end up starting to fuck with concepts that are very similar to the kind of fascist and eugenics arguments. Because I'm not trying to say that you should control who has children. Obviously, there is absolutely no justification or right for that. But what I do think is an interesting thought is controlling parenting. Because here's an interesting concept. If you drive a car, you don't just get to jump up and go, I've got enough money to buy a car. Jump in a car and drive that down the high road. You have to take a course, and then you have to take a test. And if you don't pass that course and you don't pass that test, you are not legally allowed to drive that car. Why? Well, very simply because if you don't pass that course and that test, then you are not a safe driver of that car. You can do something, crash the car or knock someone down, and you can ruin someone's life and ruin the life of their family, and and you can do a lot of damage. But I know it's everybody's human right to have a family because that's what the whether it's God or the universe or the Big Bang, however you want to put it, whoever you believe in, whatever process you believe in, we all came with this ability, not all, the majority of us came with this ability to procreate. So it's all good. But I don't think that should mean that we don't have a process and a system where we at least assist people into the end results of procreation, which is having a child that they have to parent. Now I know they got all the people locked off in a system with all this. It's just fuckery. I have never been in the foster system or anything like that, but I've had reason to deal with them when I worked in youth work, and reason to deal with them when I was trying to help some young people in my own, who were close to me or important to me, and it's just fuckery. It's just organized in a way that allows all the predators in to conduct all the evil wickedness they want to do, and the genuine people who want to help get just flooded with red tape so we can't get involved and actually assist these children and help to provide some kind of a boy, to help them with that love deficit so they know that someone actually gives a fuck. I could go on about that for days, but my point is, when you've got people having children with pretty much no instruction other than their own parents, you're on a fucking downward spiral to hell. Because like I said about on manhood, most men out there weren't taught how to be men. Yeah, I know it's a big divisive issue. What is being taught how to be a man? Define a man. Yeah. Well, I accept all of that. But look around you. Do you know what I mean? If you, whatever you think I'm talking bullshit, look around you. Look around you with the 18 to 65-year-olds. And whatever the fuck you think being a man is, if it actually stood for something, and I'm going to speak for men because I'm a man, I can't speak for women, tell me if you think that most of these people out there are that. Because I don't see them as being that. Do you know what I mean? Because they weren't taught. They weren't taught values, how to deal with things, how to deal with emotions, how to deal with relationships, how to deal with, circumstances, situations. No one's doing the teaching. And with parenting, it's even fucking worse. I'm sure there are a couple of parenting classes. I'm not even going as far as say they should be compulsory. I'm just saying that this is definitely something that I think, deserves some consideration. This is free thinking. At the end of the day, man, whether you're capitulating and you're, a people pleaser, or whether you're aggressive and demanding and controlling, all of that behavior comes from your love deficit. All that behavior comes from how you're trying to regain the love that you lost from that period of being an infant to being a kid. Whether you're a performer, a musician, or whether you're someone that's to go and collect all the trophies and, become first in everything. Everyone's just trying to get love. And I'm just thinking to myself, well, at the end of the day, man, a great period to have people have enough confidence and not have to go down any of those paths is right after that chemical reaction wears off. Because that seems to me to be the point between when that love deficit kicks in. All of a sudden, you got love. Andy Robbins that gives a great example. I remember having it exactly myself. I went to the postnatal classes with my wife. My son was born, and I was in a room with women. I thought I was being cute. It's like, oh yeah, my son, he's so cool, man. He vomits on me, and I have to say to me, yeah, well done. And they all looked at me like I was a fucking axe murderer. But I was actually I was joking. I was trying to be cute. But that's the reality, that when you're an infant, and you belch and you throw up, oh, good boy, well done. But when you're like 5 and you throw up, what the hell are you doing? I told you to eat those sweets. Oh, you're such a pain. Go and sit in the corner. And it's a huge change in your reality with no fucking explanation because you're still a young mind. So, we got our parenting fucked up and twisted. And, I'm sure there are some cultures and parts of the world where that isn't the case. I always say that being a child in Spain is like being a cow in India. Children are revered here. And I must admit, I ain't really seen the statistics to see if they grow up that much more confident. But what I definitely know is that they are loved and revered for a hell of a lot longer than I see anywhere else in Western Europe. And I'm pretty sure it has a positive impact on them. But, without getting into being a fascist and telling people who and who can't have children, without getting into eugenics and saying that, we want to select only certain people to have children, I don't think that's true. But I'm a big believer in education. And I think the more parents are prepared to continue to love and support their children, understanding that now when you're going for a little juki, that could be your end result. Not just the whole, yeah, we're doing sex education in class, use a condom, and you might have to have a baby, take the baby home, and this toy baby's going to cry for the weekend. Oh, I bet you don't fucking want that. No. Talk about the emotional support that your child is going to need as it goes from being a baby into an infant, into a toddler, into a young kid. And understanding that, you're going to have to fill that love deficit. You really need to. It needs to be understood and planned out and thought about how you're going to fill that love deficit and continue to help and support and love that child as they go through those stages up into, adolescence, up into young adult, adolescence and teenage, and continue to support and understanding that that's your job as much as, if not more, than putting food on the table and clothes in their back and the latest Nikes and getting them a Netflix account and the PlayStation and whatever the fuck else they want, taking them to concerts and the latest CDs or whatever CDs are now. Go out and getting them a Spotify account. Your real job is to make sure that they don't fall into that love deficit where they really have to start finding ways to feel the love that they really should be getting from a close family and community, or a close family community. They shouldn't be having to find means to do that, whether it's by being a people pleaser and setting themselves up for a life of being misused, abused, walked over and mistreated, or whether it's flipping the other side and being aggressive and collecting all the toys and wanting to control and being demanding because that's how they get people's attention and they think that's love. Or like I said, going down a performing art where they use their God-given talent to create something that allows people to give them love and adoration, but they set themselves up for a huge fall the moment that that's taken away from them. So it's free thinking and it's just a thought. The love deficit, in my opinion, is real. I really understand that whole concept of kids being loved when they're born and it's chemical. I really understand the concept of how stark it is when that's taken away from them. And we don't even fucking think about it. We just, it's like being high. The fucking chemical just wears off and we just start treating them normally. Of course, we still love them, our kids, but the way we treat them has to change. And it gets lower and lower the older and older they get. And we wonder why when I get teenage, they're rebelling and they're being all shitty to us. Because we don't treat them the way we treated them when they were young. You know what I mean? Because now we're holding them accountable for their actions. We don't just love them when they throw up on us on our favorite tie right before we're going to work. You know what I mean? We don't love them and go, oh, I love you so much. You just threw up on my tie. I got to go and change my shit and I'm going to be late for work and be told off for my boss. We don't do that when they're 13 or 15. So, they have a reason for feeling that rejection and feeling that change and having to find other ways to replace that love. But actually, as parents, that's our fucking job. As community, it takes a village to raise a child. As a village, is our fucking job. That's one of the things I give, Spain. I only live in Andalusia. I never live in that part, so definitely in Andalusia where I live. That's one thing I give them credit for, that the village raises the child, man. And when we came from the UK and some of my English friends, it's mind-blowing. Like I've had, my worst example is to joke about how, Spanish adults all carry sweets. My kids were toddlers, came in, they were 6 and 3. They've been running down the road and meeting an adult and they go, oh, hola, guapo, niño. And a sweet would just come out of their pocket. Like, how do these people have sweets? Like, they just buy a bag of sweets and they just carry around them all day because they know they're going to bump into kids. It literally was like that. Whereas, an example I had with a friend of mine, a very good friend, Laura, is telling me that, when her son was born, I think it was when the youngest one was born, she was walking him down the road in the pram. And a Spanish lady walked up to someone she'd never met before in her life and just walked up to him, oh, mira, baby, oh, que guapo, and just took him out the pram and gave him a hug. Just lifted his ass out the pram. Literally. Like Laura's the real deal. She don't play, man. This woman could have got decked. Like, what are you doing with my child? You know what I mean? Not forgetting, you didn't just touch my child. More or less than pick his ass up out the pram and hug him and put him back. Like, you could be looking up at the sky. Do you know what I mean? But that's how it is out here. They have this love and continual love and appreciation for young people, and they continue to, boost them and support them and give them. And as I said, I'd love to see the statistics. I can see it in the way of everyday life. Young people, teenagers, adolescents down here, man, are so much more balanced. She's just amazing, just respectful. But I think there's maybe a lot of other reasons why that is. Like, there's still 3-4 generations of, one family in a household. There's a lot of shit going on. But I do think that love deficit, or the lack of that love deficit, actually plays a big part of that. That they never feel abandoned. They're always loved, and if it isn't, and the reason I went to the African proverb of it takes a village to raise a child is because if it isn't their parents, it comes from someone else. I know some of these kids who haven't had great relationships with their parents, but I know them through my kids' sporting teams, and they come up and they give me a hug and shit, because I'm seen as part of that community, and it's not unusual for them to get that replacement of love and support from other people in the community. So even though I'm like a Geary, I'm actually inheritance, I'm from outside of the community, all they see is, no, but you're cool and you treat me well. And even though your Spanish is bad, you always try and give me good advice. So you're part of my community. So when they see me, they're like, yo, what's up? Slap my hand, give me a hug. And I always feel really very touched by that. Do you know what I mean? Whereas in the UK, listen, dude, before I left the UK, I wouldn't hug no one's child. I wouldn't touch no one's child. Because the way the politics was going with, like I said, the politics are set up, they create a smoke screen for all the abusers, and all the normal, genuine people can't have relationships with their children, and they can't even video their kids at the bloody pantomime because they're going to be accused of being a paedophile. But yet, Operation U-Tree is exposing paedophilia going back like 40 fucking years. So, go figure. Do you know what I mean? But I can't go to a pantomime and or school playing video on my kids. So that shit was twisted up by those same dumb Quango CRE motherfuckers who fucked everything else for a payday. Do you know what I mean? It's all the same people who started the same shit for the same reason, which was just, if we sit here in this think tank and talk shit, they keep paying us. So you know what I mean? It got very twisted in the UK. Out here they don't have that dumb shit. And as I said, the community raises the children. I don't see the love deficit, and I don't have the stats on how much it improves stuff, but I'm pretty bloody sure it does to some extent. They still have a real major problem out here with machismo and domestic violence, which they're now starting to deal with. As I said, lots of reasons, but I really think that love persists. So that's all I can say, man. I think we really need to think about teaching our young people about parenting, about not allowing that love deficit to kick in, about their responsibilities as a parent, their emotional responsibilities as parents, not just financial, not just chasing down the man because, the CSA sent me off a PF for me picking them. No, it's not just about the CSA, it's about your emotional responsibility. And I'll just really jump to one last thing. As I mentioned, that there was a nightly show. Trevor Noah's doing it now, but there's another guy. He's one of the producers and writers of that Easter Rave program. I'll probably try and throw his name in the notes anyway. But it was an interesting thing because something came out many years ago, and it was talking about one of the many reports that come out of America about Black Americans. And they were talking about, that most Black American men or Black American males had the highest statistics of having children out of wedlock and not being with the mother. Obviously, that plays out and it goes on Fox and CNN, and everyone's talking about it. Young African-American men, they're also fucked up, blah, 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 blah. Larry Wilmore, that's his name. I knew it would come back to me later. Larry Wilmore. Really great show. Not prime example. He had a nightly show around for a couple of years. Apparently said the wrong thing to the wrong guest. Got it twisted. Everyone got mad. Cancelled overnight. But great show, Larry Wilmore show. But the point he was making was that, he said that they had that whole discussion. Then right at the end he threw in, but yeah, it's so funny that this is absolutely a true statistic that most African American men don't stay with their parents, the mothers of their children. They're not in a relationship with them. But at the same time, they had a much higher level of engagement with their children than any other nationality, i.e. going to visit them, taking them to sporting events, taking them out, spending time with them. So it's kind of a strange scenario. Do you know what I mean? Now, I'm not trying to say that, in any way the love deficit amongst young African Americans is being dealt with, because I think the fucking statistics are telling us that really isn't the case. But it's an interesting concept to show that even if you're not in a relationship with, as parents, if you're co-parenting, you don't have to allow the love deficit to be created. You can still, make an effort to be there to support your children emotionally. So yeah, I don't even know how long that was. Well, I can't see. It was long. it was one of those ones I wanted to throw down, and like I said, it's late at night, and I'm drinking chaps. I'm not drinking chaps. I'm drinking good quality, cheap red wine. So this has been the GGP Free Thinking podcast, GGPLS channel. And like I said, hit us up, throw some comments, and let's keep the conversation going. And we out.
It gaff till it gaff. It gaff till it gaff. I'm illy with the till it gaff. Illy with the till it gaff. Knit gaff, knit gaff. Knit gaff, knit gaff.